Alright guys, so I'm working on a 2008 Jeep Patriot, and I can't tell you the countless hours I've spent looking to try and find why the four-wheel drive exclamation mark was on my dash and it wouldn't go away. Now I checked the kick panel down by the floor, if any of you are familiar with that. Behind here there's a cluster of wires, and there's a loop wire, and they use like a copper with some soldering, and sometimes that comes apart, and that's helped some of you. Now I've checked that. I checked my fuse, and I checked the plugs, the wiring all the way back, all the way forward, and I didn't have any luck. So I was just, before I took it to the dealership, if you're a little bit of mechanically savvy, I pulled the fuse box underneath the hood. Now I know this looks like a complete cluster, and I am no electrical type of guy. But what I did see was this. So as you might know and are aware, this number 15 fuse right here in the corner is for your four-wheel drive. If you look in your manual, that's the one for that. So what I did was, is I was just trying to check the wiring underneath here, because as we know, like, I don't know why they didn't, like, I haven't pulled anything off of these wires. These wires were just like this. They had a little bit of tape here and there, but that's it. And I know they have, I don't know what that stuff's called. It's ribbed and sliced to slide over wires and protect them. But I mean, I'm looking at all these wires down in here, and like, it's all open. And it's like, that stuff costs pennies. And I mean, I like Jeep and all, but what a terrible, terrible design. Anyway, so I was tracing back my wires from the 15 amp fuse, and this plug, excuse me, this wire here, as where this goes into this plug. The first one, as you can see here, isn't used. The next one up, the blue one, 15, is for your four-wheel drive. So where this plug goes in, if you look, let's see here, sorry, all these friggin' wires, I'm trying to do it with one hand. This wire right here, this guy. So this guy goes to, you see it down in the corner. I don't know if you can see this very well. I'm trying to make it so you can see it with a light. My hand's right in the way. So that wire right here, this one with the white stripe, goes right down into the corner. Where the frick can I get the light in there? So anyway, so that's the one right here, right down in this very bottom corner here. That's the one, this red and white one is the one that goes to your 15 amp. So I traced this back, and I saw a lot of, if you're familiar with copper starts to corrode, you get a lot of that green funk. So, I can find the other end of it, there it is. So I saw that on both tips. Now I don't know if you can see this or not, but you see all the corrosion on the tip there, and on this tip here. So, focus in, and if you look, you can't even see any wire in there. So when I pulled the wire out, I twisted both sides of it past the corrosion, and it twisted very, very freely. And I was able to pull them gently apart, and it was just stretching perfectly, like there was no wire connection in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice these and wire it back together, and I will let you know the outcome. But I would say, like, if you know it's not your sensor and you're just trying to track it down, this only took me 15 minutes to get it apart. And like I said, one of the major faults of this vehicle is having all these exposed wires, and through bumps and driving and chafing and all that stuff, a lot of them can get, you know, worn or cut. It would have caused a very slight cut in that, and then once moisture gets in it, it's just going to corrode and eventually break off. And we would have been, you know, hours. They would have had to do a continuity test at the dealership to try and figure out where that is. And I mean, we're talking, you know, $120 an hour at Southern Maine Motors here in Maine, and they probably would have been a few hours trying to track it down. And I would just as soon fix it myself if I can figure out how. So I will let you guys know if this fixes it or not in part 2. So, because there's no way I'm gonna be able to do all this and hold the phone at the same time. So I will let you guys know.